Hello everyone, it's Shaun Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to The Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And for this week, we'll be talking about The Brat from John Ford, and joining me is my wife, Jess.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. I didn't know if I missed a cue, I'm sorry.
It's all good. And if you haven't tuned into Welcome to the Wasteland before, there are 3 segments. We start with coming attractions for the last weekend of October, 2023, October 27th. And then we'll get into The Brat, our main attraction, our feature film of the week. And then we have some recommendations for you. Now, for this coming attraction weekend, we have Five Nights at Freddy's, a couple other, lesser known, lesser hyped, wide releases that are coming out this weekend, but I think the biggest thing is some of the limited releases. And Jess, what is the one that you're most excited about, and why is it the Holdovers?
It's the Holdovers, mostly because I like the way the trailer's cut, and I'm a simple person with simple delights.
Which I know it's an Alexander Payne film, which is pretty exciting.
I do like The Descendants, and I do like, what was the other one?
Nebraska.
I like Nebraska, too, a lot. Dare I say loved Nebraska.
Now we have Grumpy Paul Giamatti. I'm stuck with a student, and is she one of the...
She's
a cook?
Yeah, I think she works.
So she also...
Food services.
So basically it's the 3 of them stuck together for the holidays at some kind of fancy boarding school. So Alexander Payne, also love the music choices from the trailer.
Yeah.
It
seems like a real 70s film, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it's cut.
I'm also pretty excited about it, and it would probably be my most excited one if it were not for another limited release coming out that weekend from director David Fincher, and that is The Killer. So Michael Fassbender is back with a double dose of some pretty high-profile films, along with Next Goal Wins coming out next month. And this is an exciting film because it has Fassbender playing a hitman and David Fincher getting back to a more thriller-type story after doing Mank. So neither Fincher or Fassbender have done anything particularly, immediately recently. So it's pretty exciting to have them both back doing some new films, and I'll be pretty excited to be checking it out once it most likely probably won't be until it comes out on Netflix. Are you excited for The Killer?
I have enough anxiety. Fincher's not my favorite.
Fair.
I have a lot going on. But, I mean, I'm fine to watch it here. Yes, I'm excited for it. Just not as excited as the Holdovers. I'm a big fan of the quirky found families.
That is very fair.
I myself being an only child and having to hand select my siblings.
But I am guessing the king of the box office will indeed be Five Nights at Freddy's.
FNAF, as I found out some cool people
FNAF.
call it FNAF. Look, if you show up and people are saying it that way, please let me know because I will feel very cool.
Okay. Will do when I go to my press screening.
Yeah.
But
if the coolest middle-aged movie... No, I'm just kidding. Shane's there too. He's not middle-aged.
So our feature of the week is The Brat by John Ford from 1931, starring Sally O'Neil as the titular Brat. She doesn't get a name in the credits. Her name is actually The Brat.
Yeah, that's all they call her too.
Yes, and this film is an hour long. It is a pre-code comedy and focuses on a young woman who is brought in by a society novelist as he wants to observe her for inspiration for his new novel. And then, of course, things go a little different. His family is distraught, but soon her behavior has forever altered their snobbish ways. And this is very Pygmalion of the story. For those who don't know the play, you might know My Fair Lady, which basically is just Pygmalion.
There's
so it's basically
King of the Hill called Pygmalion too, I think.
There you go.
For us cultured few.
It is indeed a tale as old as time, or at least modern entertainment. But this film is based off of a previous release 1919 silent film. And
Oh, dang, they had remakes already in 1931?
There's remakes already in the early, like 19 single digits.
That's wild.
Yep. Maud Fulton, writer, starring in the stage, who was the writer and also starred in a stage version of this. So there's a couple different iterations of this story. But Jess, what are your general thoughts on The Brat?
They can be summed up with did not age well. And yikes. That's it. Those are the only thoughts I have in my entire head.
Which, one of the challenging things watching this film was the surviving footage is not in great shape.
Mm.
If you've ever tried to go back and watch all of Doctor Who, and I mean like all of Doctor Who, not just from Chris Eccleston on when they rebooted it. If you watch any of those like original Doctor episodes, this is like the quality of film that you're gonna find. Mm. And this is still pretty early on in the talkie era, and it's not the strongest in terms of like the sound mixing and stuff like that.
And just the way every woman sounded shrill.
Well, very particularly, the Brad's like, "Oh, I oughta."
Yeah, like Snow White, early
No, not. She sounded like the woman from Singing in the Rain who has the obnoxious voice who they're trying to hide once things turn into talkies and they get Debbie Reynolds to dub over her voice. So it's that like high-pitched voice and talking like this, and it's obnoxious. It's over the top, and it's grating. This movie's only an hour, but it's a lot.
God, it felt like longer.
It did actually feel like longer. It's also a really silly movie. And it's just clunky and just... There's not a whole lot of depth to it. Like Pygmalion or My Fair Lady, at least, have some kind of depth in the way that they tackle this particular concept. This film really doesn't. But it is just basically just a string of crazy characters and like this rambunctious young woman who comes into everybody's lives. What I do say is, one of my notes is, rich man pays poor woman to observe her different behavior. So like,
love that implication.
So this doesn't sound problematic at all. It is really dated in so many different ways.
I felt like every scene topped the last one where I was like, ooh.
Basically, the only two things that really stood out to me was she calls these rich people out on their shit all the time, which, like, that's where
she's a brat.
That's where, like, well, she's a brat to them. She's a warrior for us, not rich people. Those elements and, like, the... trying to make them realize like the error of their ways and how they live life, I think is significant. And then there's an all-out brawl.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
All-out brawl. They look like these two women were actually fighting.
They really. I would believe that they were like really hitting each other and dragging each other around by the hair. Like my favorite part though is that it took like 6 straight minutes of them fighting for anyone else in the house to notice.
It legitimately was like 30-40 seconds.
And everyone else was like, "Oh no, don't do it now."
It wasn't unlike a John Wick fight scene that just kept going on, and you're just like,
just decided not to care.
Is anybody gonna stop this?
No.
So like those are the biggest memorable things. Of course, there's a love story.
Yeah, not as good.
And like this film's very short in terms of runtime, not exactly feel, but the idea is it's trying to do some commentary. It has this wild fight scene, and otherwise, it's kind of bland, forgettable, and not particularly interesting. And which isn't great, especially as we're getting further into John Ford's career and getting to more feature-length films. This just kind of felt like a half-hearted, just we need to throw out an hour comedy. And that's like basically what we got.
Oh, God.
I like money.
Does that energy? Clancy Brown would improve this.
Clancy Brown would improve most things, to be honest. But Jess, do you have any other thoughts that you want to share about The Brat?
I have none in my head at all.
Okay. Well, that was brief. Like this movie in runtime, but not feel. But let's go on to our recommendations for everybody. So these are films that we actually want to recommend to you. But Jess, what's your recommendation?
I would recommend if you have, watch Shaun of the Dead, even if you've seen it before. I've watched it at different points in my life. It hit differently this time. Like a lot.
Why? Because we're older than Shaun.
That and just the fact that it's just like the mediocrity of the banality of life. Hit differently this time. I don't know. I like seeing movies I like at different points in my life.
I can't believe he's 29.
Yeah, that British people don't age well, I guess.
It's just this film is so funny. It's so perfectly edited. It's so perfectly written. Like all the tiniest little details, how they give away everything in the movie within the first 10 minutes.
Don't they with all of those?
Yeah.
Though? Yeah.
Like this set the tone of like the whole thing. It's like, let's have a Bloody Mary. They bloody a Mary in their backyard. The best part is like we'll have some shots at the Winchester.
Doesn't one like take a king's head or something? Something about the king's head.
I think that's The World's End.
No, I think because I remember thinking like, oh, is that a reference to The World's End? And I'm like, no, there's too much time between them. I'll figure it out. Fun. Maybe.
I know the King's Head is one of the bars in The World's End, but like just the cast: Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, perfect. Bill Nye.
I know.
And Shaun. And just his cadence to everything.
He's silently disappointed.
It's so great, and also I hate David. David might be one of my least favorite movie characters in the history of cinema. And you even have fun little cameos from like Martin Freeman and Rafe Spall plays the...
Who was Martin Freeman? Was he in that other group that was...
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
He is the Elseworld
I love that.
boyfriend.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And
even the cousin who's supposed to be Nick Frost's character is also a famous actor. I'm just like, what's going on here? So, this is great.
We love it.
Destroy the... aim for the head. Or destroy the brain. Or like,
remove the head and destroy the brain.
How many newscasters have a moment like... remove the head.
I love when he's reminiscing.
Or destroy the brain.
I also love the reality TV shows.
Oh my god.
Do you go to bed with it? Why would you have her on the trashy reality TV show?
Shaun of the Dead's great.
Come on.
So my recommendations. So I have a new film, a watch list film, and a rewatch. New film is 100% Killers of the Flower Moon. This is an epic of 3 hour and 25-minute proportion that it's expertly paced and really captures the essence of the horrible things that happened in this case to the Osage people. And it certainly focuses a lot on Leonardo DiCaprio's Ernest Burkhart, but Lily Gladstone is fantastic as well as Molly Burkhart, and Robert De Niro wants one more Oscar. And
I mean, he was pretty menacing.
He just the way he's at times like there's just moments where it's just like
he's
you could looking and you can tell there's evil behind that stare, and just this incredible contributions from the Osage Nation and the actual Osage people who star in this film as characters. And it's funny, it's dark, it's poignant, and just...
infuriating.
There's just so much to this. It's impeccably shot. The music is great. Everything really comes together. And boy, do we have a big frontrunner here for the Oscars for this year. One of my watch list films that I watched was Wolf Children, which is an anime from 2012 that focuses on a woman who falls in love with a wolf man, and they have 2 kids, and the husband tragically dies, and she's forced to raise these hybrid wolf children on her own. And it's a very interesting parallel for like mixed race families and like the lack of cultural competency of trying to help one of your children live their best life with their other culture. And I thought that was a really interesting thing, and it's also a very emotional journey, and it definitely has some shocking moments as well. I think it's definitely worth a watch. And my last one, which is a rewatch, is The Addams Family.
Miss McHugh.
No. It's just, this 1991, The Addams Family is so perfect. The only part that I ever feel like it loses some of its steam is when they're no longer living in their mansion because they get kicked out. Like, that brief moment. But, like, oh my god, is Raul Julia and Angelica Houston the Gomez and Morticia.
They're great.
Oh my god. The casting is just pitch perfect. It's so weird that they picked Christopher Lloyd to be Uncle Fester, but he's so good.
He hams it up.
Like, energy-wise, he really fits it. They do have to fat suit him. And, like hardcore. But, like, it really works. And it's such a quirky and weird film. Barry Sonnenfeld, who was the cinematographer for the Coen brothers before he went off and did his own thing, and Deakins took over, and the rest is history. But Barry Sonnenfeld with this, Men in Black, just, he really created a lot of fun movies, and this is certainly one of them. And also, Addams Family Family Values is such a great sequel too. It's a great Thanksgiving movie. But those are my recommendations, and that's a wrap here on Welcome to the Wasteland for this week. But Jess, thank you so much for coming on and talking the Brat briefly.
You're welcome.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.